There are 7 secrets that truly powerful people will never share with you. Not because they're cruel, not because they're hiding some mystical knowledge, but because the moment these secrets are spoken out loud, they lose their power. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. He knew that real power operates in silence, in shadows, behind smiles and handshakes. The most dangerous people in any room are never the loudest. They're the ones watching, calculating, moving pieces you don't even know are on the board. Today, I'm going to reveal 7 secrets that the powerful guard with their lives. These aren't moral lessons. These aren't feel-good philosophies. This is the raw, unfiltered truth about how power actually works. And if you're still operating like the world rewards honesty and good intentions, you're going to keep losing. So listen carefully, because what I'm about to share could completely shift how you navigate every relationship, every negotiation, every power dynamic you'll ever face. Secret number 1. Powerful people never reveal how much they actually know. You walk into a meeting. Someone's talking, explaining, revealing information they think is private, and you already know everything they're saying. You knew it yesterday. You knew it last week. But here's what separates you from amateurs. You don't interrupt. You don't correct. You don't show your hand. You let them talk. You let them think they're informing you. You nod. You ask a question or two. And you file away every single word, not because you need the information, but because now you know what they think you don't know. And that gap, that miscalculation on their part, that's your leverage. Machiavelli wrote in The Prince that it's better to be feared than loved, but what most people miss is the deeper lesson. Fear doesn't come from violence. It comes from unpredictability. When people can't figure out what you know, they become cautious around you. They second-guess themselves. They reveal more than they should because they're trying to read you, and in that process, they expose themselves. This is why the most powerful people in history, the ones who shaped nations, built empires, destroyed enemies, they were obsessively quiet about their knowledge. They never showed the full picture. They never let anyone know how many moves ahead they were thinking. Think about this in your own life. You're in a conversation with a colleague. They're complaining about the boss, revealing frustrations, talking about plans to leave the company. You already heard rumors. You already know the boss is aware. But you say nothing. You listen. You sympathize. And now you have something. Not to use maliciously, but to understand the landscape. You know who's unstable. You know who's a flight risk. You know who talks too much. And when the time comes, when decisions are being made about promotions, about who gets trusted with sensitive projects, you'll be the one who saw it coming. You'll be the one who moved accordingly. Here's the psychology. When you reveal how much you know, you give people the ability to adjust. They can lie better. They can hide more carefully. They can avoid you. But when they think you're ignorant, they get comfortable. Comfortable people make mistakes, and mistakes create opportunities. Let me be very clear. This doesn't mean you pretend to be stupid. That's a different game. This means you never volunteer the full extent of your awareness. You let people underestimate your perception. You let them think they're smarter than you. And while they're basking in that false superiority, you're 10 steps ahead. I want you to think about someone in your life right now who always has to show how much they know. Every conversation, they're correcting people. Every meeting, they're the first to speak. Every discussion, they're proving their intelligence. Now ask yourself, are they powerful, or are they just loud? Because there's a massive difference. Loud people are predictable. You know what they know because they can't help but tell you. Powerful people are mysteries. You never quite know what they're thinking. You never fully understand what they've figured out. And that uncertainty, that's what keeps people in check around them. So here's your move. Starting today, practice silence when you have information. Don't rush to show what you know. Don't correct every wrong statement. Don't fill every gap in someone's knowledge. Let them stay in the dark. Let them reveal themselves while thinking they're informing you. This is how you begin to accumulate real power. The kind that doesn't announce itself but commands every room you enter. Secret number 2. Powerful people never reveal their true network. You think you know who they know. You see them at events, at dinners, in meetings, but what you're seeing is the surface. The real network, the one that matters, is invisible. It's the person they call at 2 in the morning. It's the contact who can make a problem disappear with one phone call. It's the silent partner who never appears in photos but controls the outcome. Powerful people understand that your network is your net worth, but only if no one knows the full map. Why does this matter? Because the moment people know who you're connected to, they start trying to go around you. They try to access your contacts directly. They try to cut you out. Or worse, they start to fear you for the wrong reasons and build defenses before you even make a move. Machiavelli was a master of this. He operated in the courts of Florence, surrounded by rivals, spies, people who would sell him out for a title. So he never revealed his full hand. He had alliances no one knew about. He had information channels that seemed impossible. And because of that, he survived longer than most in one of the most dangerous political environments in history. Let's make this practical. You're building a business. You've got investors, partners, mentors. Some you talk about publicly. Some you never mention. The ones you never mention, those are your real assets. Because if your competitors don't know who's backing you, they can't strategize against you. They can't poach your relationships. They can't spread rumors to poison those wells. You stay protected by staying private. Now think about your personal life. You've got friends, sure. But do you have that one person who you never post about, never mention in group settings, but who you trust with your real thoughts? That's your anchor. That person is more valuable than 100 surface-level connections. And the reason they stay valuable is because no one else is trying to influence them against you. No one else even knows they exist in your inner circle. Here's the test. If someone asked you right now, who are you really connected to, could you give them a list? If yes, you're too exposed. Powerful people couldn't give you that list if they wanted to. Not because they're secretive for the sake of it, but because their real network operates in layers. Some people know about layer 1. Fewer know about layer 2. Almost no one knows about layer 3. And layer 3, that's where the real moves happen. This is also why powerful people never name drop unless it serves a very specific strategic purpose. Amateurs drop names to impress. Professionals drop names to intimidate or to open a specific door. But the truly powerful, they don't need to drop names at all. Their results speak. Their positioning speaks. And if you don't know who they know, that's by design. So what do? You start building in silence. You make connections that no one sees. You nurture relationships that never make it to social media. You create a web of influence that exists entirely off the radar. And when the time comes when you need to make something happen, you pull a thread no one knew existed. That's power. Not the performance of connection, but the reality of it. Hidden, protected, and devastatingly effective when deployed. Secret number 3. Powerful people never reveal their emotional triggers. You ever notice how some people just can't be rattled? You insult them, nothing. You challenge them, they smile. You try to provoke them, they stay calm. It's not because they don't feel anything. It's because they've mastered the game of emotional invisibility. They know that the moment you reveal what hurts you, what angers you, what makes you insecure, you handed someone a weapon. And in the world of power, weapons are always used eventually. Machiavelli understood that emotional control was the foundation of political survival. In his letters, he talked about princes who lost their kingdoms not because they lacked resources, but because they couldn't control their rage, their pride, their fear. The moment an enemy knew what triggered them, they could manipulate the situation to force a bad decision. Think about it. If I know you can't stand being disrespected, all I have to do is disrespect you in public and watch you overreact. Now you look unstable. Now you've lost credibility. Now I've won without even engaging in real conflict. That's the game. Let's go deeper. Emotional triggers aren't just about anger. They're about any reaction that's predictable. Maybe you're triggered by being ignored. So someone ignores you strategically and you chase validation, looking desperate. Maybe you're triggered by competition. So someone positions themselves as a rival and you waste energy trying to outdo them instead of staying focused on your own path. Maybe you're triggered by guilt. So someone plays the victim and suddenly you're bending over backwards to fix something that wasn't even your responsibility. Every single one of these is a trap, and if people know your triggers, they can set these traps whenever they want. Now here's what powerful people do differently. They feel the trigger. They recognize it internally. But they don't react. They pause. They assess. They ask themselves, is this reaction going to give me power or take it away? And most of the time the answer is it'll take it away. So they choose a different response. They choose silence. They choose a smile. They choose to walk away. Not because they're weak, but because they're strategic. They refuse to dance to someone else's tune. I want you to think about the last time someone got under your skin. What did they say? What did they do? And how did you react? Now imagine if you had just paused. Imagine if you had recognized the game they were playing and refused to play along. How would that have changed the outcome? Probably dramatically, because the moment you don't react the way they expect, you've taken their power away. They used their best move and it didn't work. Now they're the one who's uncomfortable. Now they're the one scrambling to figure out what to do next. This is why powerful people seem almost robotic sometimes. It's not that they don't have emotions. It's that they've trained themselves to route those emotions through a strategic filter before they become visible. They've learned that exposure is weakness. And in a world where everyone is looking for an advantage, weakness is expensive. So here's your homework. Start paying attention to what makes you react. Write it down, study it, understand why those things trigger you. And then, slowly, start practicing non-reaction. When someone tries to provoke you, pause, breathe, choose your response instead of letting it choose you. Over time, you'll become unreadable. And when you're unreadable, you're dangerous. Not because you're aggressive, but because no one knows how to manipulate you anymore. Secret number 4. Powerful people never reveal their backup plans. You think they're all in on one strategy. You think they've committed everything to one path. And then, when that path gets blocked, they don't panic. They don't scramble. They pivot smoothly to option B, which was already in place, fully developed, waiting in the shadows. This is the mark of real strategic thinking. Amateurs put all their eggs in one basket and pray. Professionals have multiple baskets and no one knows how many. Machiavelli wrote extensively about the importance of adaptability. He studied princes who fell because they were too rigid, too committed to one approach. And he praised those who survived because they could shift, evolve, change tactics without losing momentum. The key was that their enemies never saw the shift coming. Why? Because they never knew there was another plan. In modern terms, think about negotiations. You walk into a business deal, you have your ideal outcome. But you also have 3 other acceptable outcomes that no one at the table knows about. So when they push back on your first offer, you don't collapse. You don't get desperate. You calmly move to option 2. And because they think they just want a concession, they relax. They don't realize you're still getting exactly what you wanted, just through a different route. This applies to everything: career moves, relationships, investments, social positioning. If you only have one plan, you're fragile. The moment that plan fails, you're exposed, panicked, easy to exploit. But if you have 2, 3, 4 plans running simultaneously, you're anti-fragile. You benefit from chaos because while everyone else is reacting, you're executing a plan they didn't even know existed. Let me give you a personal example of how this works. You're working a job. Everyone thinks you're committed, loyal, planning to stay for years. But quietly, you're building a side business. You're developing skills. You're making connections outside that company. Then one day, they let you go. Everyone expects you to be devastated. Instead, you're fine, better than fine, because you were never dependent on that one path. You had options. And now you're free to pursue them without the guilt of quitting. That's power. Not the appearance of stability, but the reality of options. And the reason it works is because no one saw it coming. They thought they had leverage over you. They thought you needed them. And when they realized you didn't, the power dynamic completely flipped. Here's the psychology behind this. When people think you're desperate, they treat you accordingly. They lowball you. They disrespect you. They assume you'll accept bad terms because you have no choice. But when they sense you have options, even if they don't know what those options are, they start negotiating differently. They offer more. They respect your boundaries. They fear losing you to an alternative they can't see. This is why powerful people never reveal their backup plans. The mystery of what else you might do is more powerful than the details of what you're actually planning. So here's what you do. For every major goal you have, develop at least 2 additional paths to achieve it. Don't announce them. Don't discuss them. Just build them quietly. And when obstacles appear, when people try to block you, when circumstances shift, you'll have the ability to move in a direction no one anticipated. That's how you stay in control when everyone else is losing theirs. Secret number 5. Powerful people never reveal their true priorities. You think you know what they care about. They talk about family, about values, about mission. And maybe some of that's true. But their real priorities, the things they actually optimize for, those stay hidden. Why? Because if people knew what you truly cared about, they'd know exactly where to apply pressure. They'd know what to threaten. They'd know what to offer. And suddenly, you're no longer in control. You're being steered by anyone who understands your real motivations. Machiavelli was obsessed with this concept. He watched rulers fall because their enemies figured out what they actually valued. A prince who truly valued honor could be manipulated through his reputation. A prince who truly valued family could be controlled through threats to his children. But a prince who kept his real priorities hidden, who seemed to care about everything and nothing at the same time, he was nearly impossible to manipulate, because you never knew which lever to pull. Let's make this concrete. You're in a workplace. Your real priority is building wealth so you can retire early and travel. But if your boss knows that's your real goal, what happens? They know you're not actually committed to the company long term. They know you're mercenary. They stop investing in your development. They stop giving you opportunities. They might even start looking for your replacement. But if they think your priority is growth within the company, climbing the ladder, earning their approval, they treat you differently. They invest in you. They give you projects. They mentor you. And all the while, you're extracting maximum value, building your skills, making your money, and preparing for the exit they don't see coming. Same person, same real priority, but wildly different outcomes based on what's revealed versus what's hidden. This also applies to relationships. Your real priority might be freedom and personal growth, but if you lead with that in every relationship, people feel disposable. They don't invest in you because they sense you're always halfway out the door. But if you can make people feel valued, if you can show care and presence even while maintaining your true priority internally, you get the benefits of connection without the trap of dependence. Now, I'm not saying lie about what you care about. I'm saying be strategic about what you emphasize, because people make assumptions based on what you talk about most. If you constantly talk about money, they'll think that's all you care about, and they'll either try to exploit that or judge you for it. If you constantly talk about relationships, they'll think you're emotionally dependent and they'll test your boundaries. But if you're balanced, if you're measured, if you keep people guessing about what really drives you, you maintain flexibility. You can move in any direction without people feeling betrayed or surprised. Here's the test. If someone asked your closest friends what your top priority in life is, would they all give the same answer? If yes, you might be too exposed. Powerful people are multidimensional by design. Different people see different sides, and no one, not even those closest to them, has the complete picture. This isn't about being fake, it's about being protected. So start thinking about what you actually optimize for. What do you actually want from your career, your relationships, your life? And then ask yourself, who knows this? And what power does that knowledge give them over you? If the answer makes you uncomfortable, it's time to start being more selective about what you reveal. Secret number 6. Powerful people never reveal how they really spend their time. You see their results, you see their success, you see their positioning, but you have no idea how they actually spend their days. You don't know what they read. You don't know who they talk to. You don't know what they practice in private. And that's intentional, because time is the ultimate resource. And if people knew how you were investing yours, they'd know exactly how to compete with you. They'd copy your methods. They'd intercept your connections. They'd disrupt your routines. But if your process is invisible, your results seem almost magical. Machiavelli spent years studying in private. He read histories. He analyzed political failures. He corresponded with people across Italy, building a database of human behavior and power dynamics. But publicly he appeared as just another political figure. No one knew the depth of preparation behind his insights, and that gap between his visible persona and his invisible work. That's what made him formidable. When he finally wrote to Prince, it wasn't just opinion. It was the distilled wisdom of years of hidden study, and it shocked people because they had no idea that level of thinking was happening behind the scenes. Let's bring this into your world. You're building a skill. Maybe it's negotiation, maybe it's public speaking, maybe it's coding or writing or investing. You practice every day, you study, you fail in private, you refine, and then, one day, you perform publicly, and people are amazed. They think you're naturally talented. They think it came easy. They have no idea about the hundreds of hours you spent alone, grinding, improving, learning, and because they don't know, they can't replicate it. They can't shortcut it. They can't undermine it. That's the power of invisible work. Now contrast that with someone who posts every workout, every book they read, every course they take. What happens? People start to see the process. They start to think, oh, that's all it takes. They either dismiss it as not that impressive or they copy it and become your direct competitor. Either way, you've lost an edge. This is also why powerful people are vague about their schedules. They don't tell you they wake up at 5. They don't tell you they meditate for an hour. They don't tell you they spend 3 hours a day networking. You just notice they're always ahead. You just notice they always seem prepared. You just notice they have opportunities you don't. And you can't figure out why. That confusion, that's your protection. Here's what you need to understand. In a world where everyone broadcasts everything, privacy is power. The less people know about how you operate, the more mystique you build, and mystique translates to respect, to opportunity, to positioning. People are drawn to what they can't fully understand. So here's your move. Stop explaining your process. Stop sharing your routines. Stop posting your progress. Just show up with results. Let people wonder. Let them speculate. Let them try to figure you out. And while they're busy guessing, you'll be busy getting further ahead. Secret number 7. Powerful people never reveal who they really fear. Everyone's afraid of something. Powerful people aren't exempt from fear, but they'll never tell you what it is. They'll never reveal who they see as a real threat. Why? Because fear is information. If you know who I'm afraid of, you know where I'm vulnerable. You know who to align with against me. You know what scenarios keep me up at night. And in the game of power, that kind of information is a loaded gun. Machiavelli wrote about this indirectly when he discussed how princes should manage perception. He said a prince must always appear fearless, even when he's terrified. Because the moment your enemies sense fear, they attack. They smell blood. They coordinate. They push harder. But if you appear unshakable, even your most dangerous rivals hesitate. They think twice. They wonder if maybe they're miscalculating. And that hesitation, that's what keeps you alive. Think about this in a corporate environment. There's someone in your company who's more talented than you. They're climbing faster. They're getting more recognition. You're worried. But if you reveal that worry, if you start talking about them, asking questions, showing insecurity, what happens? People notice. They start comparing you directly. They start seeing you as lesser. They start wondering if you're on your way out. But if you stay calm, if you focus on your own work, if you never acknowledge the threat, people don't make that comparison. You control the narrative by refusing to feed it, and meanwhile you're studying that person privately. You're learning from them. You're finding gaps in their approach. You're preparing to outmaneuver them when it counts. But publicly, they don't exist as a threat. That's strategy. This also applies to personal relationships. Maybe there's someone in your social circle who challenges your status. They're funnier, more charismatic, more connected. If you show that you feel threatened, you look weak. People start choosing sides. But if you stay confident, if you collaborate instead of compete, if you never reveal the internal calculation, you maintain your position. You might even absorb some of their status by association. That's the difference between reacting from fear and responding from strategy. Now let's go even deeper. Powerful people also never reveal what outcomes they're afraid of. Failure, sure, everyone's afraid of that. But specifically, what kind of failure? Is it public embarrassment? Is it financial ruin? Is it losing respect? If I know which version of failure terrifies you most, I can engineer situations that push you toward it. I can make you so afraid of one outcome that you make bad decisions trying to avoid it. But if you keep that fear private, if you process it internally, if you develop plans to mitigate it without announcing it, you stay in control. You act from strength, not from panic. Here's the brutal truth. People are always looking for weakness, not because they're evil, but because it's human nature. We assess threats, we calculate hierarchies, we look for who's vulnerable. And if you broadcast your fears, you've just told everyone exactly where you're vulnerable. So they'll probe there, they'll test there, they'll strike there if they need to. This is why powerful people cultivate an aura of invincibility. Not because they actually are invincible, but because the appearance of it changes how people treat them. No one attacks someone who seems unbreakable. No one challenges someone who seems to have no weaknesses. And even if it's partially illusion is enough. Because power is as much about perception as it is about reality. So here's your final move. Identify what you're actually afraid of. Write it down, understand it, and then never speak it out loud to anyone who hasn't earned absolute trust. Process your fears privately. Build defenses against them quietly. And publicly, project confidence. Not arrogance, not bravado. Just calm, quiet confidence that suggests you've thought of everything and prepared for anything. That energy alone will change how people interact with you. Now let's bring this all together. These 7 secrets, they're not about being dishonest. They're about being strategic. In a world where everyone overshares, where vulnerability is praised as strength, where transparency is treated as virtue, the people who win are the ones who understand that not everything deserves to be shared. Some things are meant to stay hidden, not because they're shameful, but because they're powerful. And power diminishes when it's exposed too early, too often to the wrong people. Machiavelli wasn't teaching people to be evil. He was teaching them to survive in a world that doesn't reward naivety. He was saying, look, you can be good, you can have values, you can care about people, but don't be stupid. Don't hand your enemies the tools to destroy you. Don't assume everyone has your best interests at heart. Protect yourself. Think ahead. Move carefully. That's not cynicism, that's wisdom. And if you've watched this far, you already understand that. You're not here because you want to manipulate people for fun. You're here because you've been burned by your own openness. You've trusted the wrong people. You've shared too much. You've moved too loud. And you've paid for it. Now you're learning a different way, a smarter way, a way that lets you keep your integrity while also protecting your position. So here's what I want you to do. Go back through these 7 secrets. Think about which ones you've been violating. Think about what you've been revealing that you shouldn't. And starting today, start pulling back, not all at once. You don't want to suddenly become cold and distant, but gradually, strategically, start keeping more to yourself. Let people wonder. Let them guess. Let them work harder to figure you out. And as you do this, you'll notice something shift. People will start treating you differently. They'll be more careful with their words. They'll respect your boundaries more. They'll stop assuming they know what you're thinking. And in that shift, you'll find space. Space to move. Space to plan. Space to build power that no one sees coming until it's too late to stop. That's the game. That's how it's always been played at the highest levels. And now you know the rules. The question is, will you play? Or will you keep giving away your advantages for the temporary comfort of being understood? The choice is yours, but choose wisely. Because in this world, the people who guard their secrets are the ones who shape reality. Everyone else is just reacting to moves they never saw coming.